a planned ceasefire went into effect at midnight local time on Sunday. Both countries' government and Houthi rebels say they will respect the truce implemented ahead of peace talks in Kuwait next week. The United Nations hopes the halt in fighting will help put an end to a war that's left more than 6,000 people dead. Haxi Myers-Belkin has more.
The UN-backed ceasefire has come into effect, and some in the Yemeni capital are daring to believe that an end to the fighting is in sight.
We hope this truce will be a serious truce and that all parties will stick to it. I want peace to prevail in the country.
We want a ceasefire, peace. We're against chaos because we've been exhausted by this war for a whole year and we want a truce.
Yemen was plunged into conflict when Houthi rebels seized the capital last January. In March, 2 months later, a coalition led by Saudi Arabia began bombing rebels and their allies. More than 6,000 Yemenis have been killed and 2.4 million displaced in just over a year. Monday's ceasefire, not the conflict's first, comes after months of renewed UN-brokered shuttle diplomacy, work that resulted in the Houthis and Saudi Arabia exchanging prisoners in March, and just days later, a Houthi delegation attending talks in Riyadh. In the rebel-held capital Sana'a, meanwhile, coalition airstrikes have calmed in recent weeks. Hours before the truce came into effect, there were sporadic clashes across the country. Skirmishes north of the capital and in the central province of Marib left dozens dead. But with both sides publicly committing to the ceasefire, many Yemenis believe they're one step closer to securing lasting peace at talks scheduled in Kuwait next week.
And for more on the story, let's talk now to Robert Simpson, a project manager in the region for the French NGO Acted. Robert, Yemen is experiencing a humanitarian catastrophe with 4 out of 5 Yemenis now requiring aid. Just how much can aid organisations do now that this ceasefire is in place?
Hi there, nice to join you. Yeah, the scale of crisis in Yemen is barely imaginable, really. We see needs across all sectors in all governorates of the country. Our hope is, as was mentioned in your feature piece, that this ceasefire can hold, and that we can, for the first time in many months, access locations that have previously been cut off to aid agencies wishing to assist those in need.
So what are the most pressing issues facing Yemen at the moment?
Where do we start? Any sector you choose, there are huge needs. Perhaps the most pressing issue is the huge amount of displacement. Some 2.5 million people, or 1 in 10 Yemenis, currently living away from their homes. Some with friends and family, others completely openly displaced in fields or countryside, and others inhabiting collective shelters, schools, health facilities. So it's an issue for aid agencies to first prioritise those to assist first. And then at that point, it's a logistical exercise in how to access safely.
So how many aid organisations are present in the country?
There is a huge number. If we include national NGOs, we're looking at over 100, close to 40 international organisations. The access that we have largely depends on how long we've been based in the country, our relationships with local authorities, and also the donors that we work with. There is fairly good coverage. We have been able to act throughout the conflict, but our hope is that with a ceasefire, and if it holds, as I said before, we'll be able to get to new places and really scale up the assistance we can provide.
Robert Simpson, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. And in other news, British Prime